Hello everyone, I'm Michael Orwig, and with me today is a longtime friend of mine, Richard Yiap, a fascinating individual. We're going to be talking today about the light grids for the planet, light codes, the star children. Your son is 23 now, and Richard went through his awakening and did different things parenting-wise for that. We're going to talk about the change and everything going on. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you, Michael.
Take a minute and tell our wonderful audience about some of your journey, which is fascinating.
Okay, so just a very quick background. I lived for the first half a century, years of my life like everybody else. I went to school, went to university, Melbourne University, got a degree, got a job, went and worked in corporate Australia for 22 years, got married, had a son. And my son was a miracle baby. We shouldn't have had him. He's currently 23, one and only. And my journey with him was very, very different because I didn't take the traditional parenting approach. What happened was to do with the whole series of events around his birth, everything else. And he turned up in my life when I was 32. So that was, 38, get my maths right. He turned up in my life when I was 38. And at that age, all my friends said to me, you had him too late. What's going to happen is that when he's in his teens and you're in your 50s, you're going to be doddering around and he's going to be ready for a dad that can keep up with him and you're not going to be able to. That's what all my friends said to me. I said, nothing doing. So I proved them all wrong. Anyway, he was a miracle baby because his mother had endometriosis, okay? So you know that condition. You can't have pregnant because of the bleeding of the womb. And then to get cured, you have to have a baby, catch-22. So anyway, we went to see a gynae and we didn't go down the IVF route. It was too much like playing God. So we said that this is going to be a trusting faith. If the good Lord wanted us to have a baby, the good Lord would have to work a miracle. And then we would have to accept that if the good Lord didn't want to work a miracle, we would then live the rest of our married life as a childless couple. The moment we made that commitment, things happened. Within 2 months, she got pregnant. So, as a result, he turned up. Now, when he was born, it was a cesarean birth. That's a father's birth. And so the first 3 hours of his life was this amazing, incredible, profound epiphany experience. And I'd had years, 15 years then, working in the youth organization. I got involved with the fatherhood organization. I thought I knew what being a dad was about. I didn't. You get this stark realization. So in the midst of 3 hours of tears of joy with this boy in my hand that's mine, I realized that everything I knew was nothing in terms of what I wanted to give him. So I went on a manic pursuit to learn everything about fatherhood. So I read the first 3 years of his life. I read every book on fatherhood. I studied ancient cultures, rites of passage, everything else. And then I didn't find everything I wanted. I had to actually go look into scripture. And I found in the book of Deuteronomy everything I was looking for. So I brought him up completely differently. And here are the 3 principles I used in bringing him up. The first, most important principle, is always make sure he felt 100% loved by me through everything. Word, action, deed, everything. So one of Stephen Covey's really good principles was this. With your child, you've got to look upon their heart like a bank account. So you make a withdrawal from the emotional bank, you're going to make 10 deposits to make up for it. I remember that. That was a really great principle to embrace. So the first thing I always make sure is that he always felt loved by me. So that meant no making him a butt of jokes. Number 2, always talk to him in honoring language. Number 3, never get personal about anything. Number 4, always feed his love language. Number 5, always make him feel that I'm there for him irrespective. So I brought him up like that.
What was his love language?
Well, his love language are quality time and words of affirmation.
Good.
There's two. There
That was the two triggers for him,
Two
or-
main ones.
Okay.
So I made sure I fed all right. Now, his mother and I divorced when he was 13. And when we divorced, everyone said, how could you do that? You, the epitome of fatherhood and everything you preach, you are leaving your son at the age of 13. I got so much stick from people around me about that. It was the toughest thing I had to do. When he was 13, in August 2008, pack a whole lot of possessions in my car, drive from Melbourne to Perth, which is like going from New York to LA, with a carload of possessions and nothing but credit card debt to start a life, renting a room with 2 mature age women I've never met in a house in a suburb I didn't have a clue about, and with no job, nothing to go to. That's how I started my new life. And with my son at the age of 13, I made 11 trips back to Melbourne over the first 18 months of our separation, just to make sure that he still felt that he had a dad.
We'll talk more about the children, but I also want to talk about your work with the light grids of Mother Earth. I've always done high-level energy work for the Earth almost my entire lifetime, and so to see someone like yourself deliberately working with her light grids, I thought it would be a lot of fun to talk a lot about the Earth's energy body. We're naturally, at least most people, have an understanding that each of us have an auric field, an energy field around ourselves. Most people are conscious of that. But really they don't think nearly as much about Mother Earth as having different energy bodies around her. You've studied the light grids probably more than anybody I know. I know there are other people out there that have studied the light grids, but how do you see them? What do you know about the light grids? Maybe that our audience could benefit from on a. I know we can be complicated with the explanations, but how simple and understanding can we share with them about the light grids?
Great question, Michael. Now let's use the parallel of Mother Gaia with the human body. Okay, because the human body is a microcosm of Mother Gaia. You know, like the hologram of Mother Gaia, and it goes on, the cells, a hologram of the entire body.
The Earth Mother has a circulation system of its own energy flows, just as we have our own blood runs through us. She has an energy body circulating through her, the whole thing. Yes,
Correct.
absolutely.
Okay, so we understand, or we've been told, that our body has 7 chakras. So in the same way, Mother Gaia has 7 chakras. Now there's a couple of different chakra systems, okay, but I follow one. I can't remember the name of the guy, but he's from earthchakras.org or earthgrids.org, and the base chakra is Mount Shasta in California. The next one, the Sacral Chakra, is Lake Titicaca in Bolivia, Peru. The solar plexus is in my home country, Australia, Uluru, Red Rock. Then the heart chakra is the Glastonbury Tor. Now that's a very powerful place, the heart chakra of the planet. Then the throat chakra is is the pyramids of Giza. The third eye floats around, so it's not in one particular place. The crown chakra is Mount Kailash in Tibet. So Mother Gaia has 7 chakras just like us. Then there are ley lines, and particularly earth light grids, just like there's meridians in our body. You know how we've got meridians in our body? Mm-hmm. So the meridians in our body is just like the ley lines that run around. Now something that I'm working on is going through all the 7 chakras, doing activations, and we'll come to exactly what I do later. And then there's also a template called the Arcturian Crystalline Tree of Life for Planetary Healing. And this comes from David Miller's work with the Arcturians. So he channels all the work with the Arcturians.
David Miller?
Yeah. He's written a couple of books, like how the Arcturians are healing the earth and so on.
Okay.
So from his book, there's this diagram, and there are 12 sacred sites on this Arcturian crystalline tree. And I was drawn to that work, and then the message came from above, very clearly, you, me, and Sian, my partner, are to go to every one of these 12 grids personally. So it's not like doing it remote. We physically go there, we spend time, we run a sacred light journey, we do activations, we fire out new light grids. Now, you and Elaine were with us in Shasta, at our last visit there. And snow, huge adventure, profound. So you have an experience in terms of what happens during that weekend. So it's not like just going there and doing a ceremony and mumbo jumbo, beat a few drums and go.
Well,
we do as much
within that, just to tell them, what we wound up doing, we were there for a week. We have a light called the Pandora Star we were using as part of the journey. We did a very strict vegetarian diet for the entire week. We trained on the lights twice a day. We meditated twice a day. A number of the different people did the sun gazing in the morning or possibly in the evening. Normally it was in the morning when they did that. In essence, it was truly a meditation retreat where we prepared for the entire week for the group meditation and went to one of the major energy sites at Shasta that CN guided us to. We knew about where it would be, but she picked out the final point. And the adventure of that was we had to walk probably a mile through the snow carrying, I didn't carry it, we had some young lads with us that had on their shoulder, walking through a foot of snow, roughly a foot, maybe a foot and a half of snow, this 90-pound
marquee, a tent
that we had to carry out there. It was fascinating, and it was such fun being with the group, and on the adventure and the whole bit. But no, we did the ceremony out in the middle of a snowfield at Shasta, and it was May, early May.
That was May 2017.
Okay. Yeah, but I'm saying, what part of May was that? Was that
kind of early to
I don't
middle.
think it was late May. I think it was early May. If I
Early May.
remember
There was still
right.
snow.
But, it was fascinating. But you've done these at a number of places. That was only the one that I've been with you. You've done it at.
Well, I've done it at Uluru. I've done two at Shasta. I've done one at Glastonbury Tor. I've done one at Lake Taupo, New Zealand, and then there's other sacred sites where I actually haven't done a sacred light journey, but I've actually physically gone and done the activation there.
Now, one of the fascinating things, and I'll show them a picture, talk about the crop circle after your one at Glastonbury.
This is the one at Glastonbury Tor.
And I'll show them a picture of it.
And the one in 2016, before 2017, which is the year you came, in 2016 was the first time we visited the Glastonbury Tor. Now, the Glastonbury Tor is the heart chakra of the planet. And when we visited the heart chakra at the time, it had terrible, broken, dense, dark, sad energy, which is symptomatic of the condition of the human race, and so on. And so Mother Gaia felt that way as well, because dextrification environment, consciousness going down, all the wars and poverty, injustice, you name it. And we went through, as a group, during that period in time, some amazing challenges as well. Okay, so the challenge was like this. One of the ladies from Florida rocks up, and the young lady that she recommended to come on the journey ended up being somebody completely opposite. And she comes in and sees me and sheepishly says that the group that they were at beforehand, which was supposed to spiritual journey, this young lady was a problem. She stole from the group. She went off with other people. She was incalcitrant. She wasn't listening to the leader of the group. And you're going to have to lock up your things because it's not safe with her around. So you can imagine how the group felt when I announced to her, we have a problem. You're going to have to keep your bedrooms locked and all this kind of stuff. It's like, what? So that's how we started. That's how we started that whole week. And me as leader of the group, I'm going, what the? And I'm running in my head, oh my God, if she doesn't shape up, the next day, Lunchtime, we're going to put on a train and send her off. Because this whole spiritual journey can't function under those circumstances. So, immediately we go off to the chalice well. And there, we just go and check out the place. I go sit by the chalice well, and I do a meditation. I get in my Akashic records, I do meditation. To go and bring the situation of divine. Because it was like, how do I fix this? And there was no solution. So the message came through clear and simple. You are here to heal the heart chakra of the planet. How can you do that if your hearts, you and all the whole group, are not aligning up? It was like, oh my God. So I had the whole download, and I walked to every single one of the team members one-on-one, and I shared that message. Everything turned around, completely turned around. So the entire group, their whole attitude, their whole heart, their whole spirit, their whole countenance to this young lady completely turned around. And then that was in the morning. Then in the afternoon, we went up to the Glastonbury tour. We didn't do our work then. We just did a walk around, and that was profound. And she joined in because the group embraced her. And everything just turned from that point in time in terms of what we ended up doing. And then the one of the ladies group does dowsing, and she measures the energy of the space. So after we did the Sacral Light journey at the Glastonbury tour, which was incredibly powerful, her measurement of the energy, it was negative a few hundred when we started. By the time we finished, it was positive a few thousand. Now the shift was like enormous magnitudes. And we had many, many signs about that. Now, during that week, while we were there, we go and do our first visit on the tour on the Thursday. Okay, where we just walk around. We didn't do the light journey then. On the Friday, we have a message that, oh, crop circles turned up. And I look at that crop circle, I go, oh my God, they're sending us a message. It's from the Arcturians. So the Saturday night, we go up to the tour, we do the activation, then on the Sunday, we end up visiting this crop circle itself. This crop circle was built as the #1 crop circle of 2016. We went there and we spent 3.5 hours in this
How
crop
far
circle.
from the tour was it?
It's about probably 2 hours drive from the
2 hour drive.
traffic.
Okay.
So it was an hour and a half from where we were staying. So we spent 3.5 hours in this crop circle. And I have to tell you, Michael, it was one of the most amazing off-the-chart experiences in my life. This lady that douses for energy in sacred spaces, she could not get a reading because her rods were spinning like crazy. She could not get a reading because the energy was off the charts and so strong. And so all of us, it's like, oh my God. And so I did a channeling, and basically the message was this crop circle turned up just for us so we could go there, get an upload into us so that we could go and do our work and download into Mother Gaia when we fired up the tour. It was profound.
It was. I would have loved to have been there.
Absolutely. And that particular Sacral Light journey, the celestial light grid got created then. And
Talk
the
about the
celestial
light
light grid is metaphorically just a grid in the heavens, right, that connected three bodies in the heavens, which is the central sun, the Pleiades star system, the Arcturus star system. So that's connected to 3 points here, which is which was Mount Shasta, Glastonbury Tor, and Lake Taupo at that time. So that was celestial light grid, and that was the first time we had something energetically that connected some powerful galactic bodies onto the planet that we could dial into.
Now there's another aspect of this that I found very important and very interesting. It was important that we as representatives from humanity do this work at the light grid level. We just can't ask for ascended masters or our wonderful friends from the alien side, the Arcturians, the Palladians that have been helping us for a long time. It wasn't just about, oh, come in and save us. It's so important that we as part of humanity, all of us, do our work and participate. And it was a very important aspect of the connection with grids at Mount Shasta, the Celestial Light Grid, all of these. I think that's just a very important aspect of the work that most people don't think about. They just think, oh, I'm just stumbling around through life or whatever, but no, the more that we can break away from the mundane matrix that so many people are in and expand our awareness. There's so much around us that we can connect with if you are aware. And it's huge.
I totally agree with you, Michael, and you made a very, very, very profound point. And that is this. The masters, the angels, the elementals, and all these people, they can't do what we are meant to do in terms of our work with the light grids of Mother Gaia. And I want to expand on that point in terms of why, and this leads to our star children, okay, as to why they're here. Now, I'm just going to do a slight segue and bring it back, and then you'll see my point. Everything starts from the void. In the beginning was the void, the nothingness. Okay? So from nothing comes dark matter. Dark matter begets light matter. Light matter begets love matter. We are love matter. We are the carbon bodies of love. So we are love matter. Then love matter goes back to light matter, which goes back to dark matter, which goes back to the void nothingness. Now, Mother Gaia is carbon love matter, but in a completely different form to us. And she has a role in evolution to make. And one reason why the ETs are so interested in what's going on right now is that the evolution of Mother Gaia is going to have profound impact on them, their planets, and their evolution. There's an incredibly powerful connection between Mother Gaia and what's going on in their world. That's why they're so concerned what's going on here. Because if humanity screw it up, it affects them.
It does.
So that's one of the things that I understand. So, one of the things that, one of the questions I went through, one of the things I went through was like this. If I'm a source of spark, if I'm infinite potential, if I can do all these things, and if my limitations are just an illusion and everything else, why am I stuck in this body that I got to sleep, that I got to eat, I have to go to the toilet, I bleed when I get cut, I can break a leg, all this kind of stuff, right? So why am I in this limitation? Why was I so frustrated being limited in this body when I'm supposed to be a spark of source, I'm unlimited potential, I'm much bigger than what I am, etc., etc., etc. And inverted commas, I'm God. Okay, why am I limited in this body? So that I've come up with 3 reasons which are profound. The first one is that I'm love matter. Okay, because I'm love matter and I connect with Mother Gaia. Now, the human body is much more than what people think it is, as you know. It is it's a biochemical electromagnetic transmitter responder of information. So we connect Mother Gaia to the cosmos. So when the central sun sends images and light goes down to us, and even though it hits the plants, right from the plants into Mother Gaia is only one aspect of the information. Because the plants don't have the consciousness of us. So when the light hits us, and we process the light codes into us, and we connect with Mother Gaia, that particular transmission is incredibly powerful. And then Mother Gaia transmits back to us up to the cosmos. So we're like the circuit connector between all that. So that's one thing. The second thing is me, right? If I'm supposed to be this light being, this light master, whatever, I'm actually most effective in doing what I'm doing in this limited body because I'm completely in this dimension. Because I'm completely in this dimension, I can effect change at a level that if I were just a high-level being, not in any form, they can. It's a bit like this. If you want to do something in enemy territory, right, you're most effective in a Trojan horse situation where you can infiltrate there and they don't know what's going on. So it's kind of a bit like that. And then the third thing is this. Being in this body, in this incarnation, in this human form, you have the gift of being able to experience the whole spectrum of the duality and polarity of love. And the reason why that's so powerful is because the reason why everything is the way it is and we've got the light and dark is because love begins, goes out from itself, away from itself, to go through 0 point, to know itself from the opposite and then return back to itself. And as it does that, it magnifies and multiplies the intensity of that love when it returns, so that the knowing, the consciousness, the experience, the knowledge is profound, which you're not going to get if love never made that journey. And that experience, that journey, I call raw love, R-A-W love, the reality actualization of the world in love.
Excellent. Now, talking a little bit about light codes and how that affects all of humanity, and especially these new children that are coming in. Your tech that you've been developing is designed to allow someone, it's a light, and just by gazing in it in a meditative state, eyes closed, light codes come to the consciousness through the optic nerve going back to the pineal gland in the brain. I also, outside here in the warmer time frame of Denver, Colorado, I'll go out and I'll sun gaze. Doing that, you're bringing in the light codes. Talk a little bit about what those light codes would do for a parent, as well as what it relates to for these amazing souls coming in as the children.
So let me just make a distinction here. Okay, light codes and new light codes only come from the sun when you go outside and dial in. Now what's interesting is this. Whenever you're out in the sun, you're actually getting information in, whether you know it or not. The most powerful part of light codes is when you look at the sun in the first hour of sunrise, the last hour of sunset. And sunrise codes and sunset codes are different. I can't tell you how they are. I just can tell you they're different from the experiences. Now, the way you dial into light codes is not sun gazing. Okay, the way you dial into light codes is that you look at the sun, and then you have to soften your gaze, so the precise focus goes into blur focus. When that happens, then you've got to dial into the shimmering lines around the sun. So you'll see a whole series of shimmering lines around the sun that shimmer. Okay, so the lines that shimmer around the sun, once you blur your vision, they're like codes going in. And so when you're present to focus on that, is very, very powerful. Now what my light does is stimulate your third eye, your pineal gland. And what it does is start to activate and move the light codes that are already in your body. That's what my light does. And that's why things happen as a result of that, apart from all the positive benefits in terms of the light stimulation, visual cortex, your pineal gland, your pituitary, hypothalamus, etc., etc., etc.
If your light was, if an individual came to you that had not done any clearing or cleaning of his pineal gland, and for a lot of the people that don't understand the fluoride use, fluoride was devised by the Nazis to dumb down a population, and that's why it was put in our water supply with the supposedly thing that would help the dentistry. It has nothing to do with your teeth. The problem with the fluoride is it also starts calcifying the pineal gland. does your light codes, your particular device, start the detox effect of that as well? Does it affect at that level?
What the light does is accelerate the detoxing. And the detoxing is something you're going to have to do at a chemical level, because the calcification of your pineal gland is a chemical phenomena. So you've got to chemically detox. And what the light does will be to accelerate the onset of that process.
But it won't necessarily just do
So
it for
if
you.
you just do the light session and you expect that to decalcify the pineal gland, it's not going to work.
There's more to it.
Yeah.
Cool. How do the sun gazing with its light codes affect the awakening of the pineal gland? And it's a fascinating subject. We could talk for hours just about the pineal gland itself, but it's such an important part of our consciousness in the awakening. And certainly for parents that have these amazing children that are amazing souls, really, coming in, keeping them clear of the toxicity is huge. Then you don't have to clear it. It's a whole lot easier
Essential.
from the beginning. What would you advise them in that regard, and different things that you did with your son to help keep him as clear and clean as you could at that point in time for what you knew at that point in time?
That's a really interesting question, because it was only after I left the home that I went on my huge awakening and knowing everything that I did. Because when I was his dad from his birth to age of 13, right, he was still on an average, everyday normal diet. He went to McDonald's, we drank tap water, we had white flour, all that kind of stuff. So my son is an amazing awake individual, but he's not awake yet. And that's okay. I've been told that by the time he's 30, he's going to wake up. When he wakes up, the acceleration in terms of his growth, spiritual growth consciousness is going to be incredibly rapid. And he's going to outdo me with where I've got to.
One thing I had heard within the codings that we place within our body as a soul coming in, we do in fact create time markers within ourselves that basically trigger the awakening. We like to say, can I awaken earlier? No, the people become awake with their consciousness awareness when it's time for that, whatever that may be on an individual basis. But back to the question, notwithstanding his awakening is his own time, what would you tell young Richard today? What advice would you give to young Richard about your path in parenting and some of the choices that you might do today versus what you did way back when?
Well, we can have a conversation about that when he gets married and he starts to have children. Okay, because I have a vested interest in that, because he's the only source of me having grandchildren. And I'm very concerned about what's going to happen to my grandchildren. So the conversation is going to be like this. First of all, let's have you go on your own journey of discovery of what's going on in the world, what's really going on, how you've been fed, what the authorities say versus what the facts are, etc., etc., etc. So there's a whole series of rabbit holes he needs to go down himself. I can just point him the way. There's this rabbit hole, there's that rabbit hole, there's that rabbit hole, and let him go and discover that. Then along the way, we build on the conversation and move from there.
What do you think you could have told young Richard back then that he could have heard? And so that's the trigger point, because it was prior to your own awakening. What do you think young Richard could have heard?
Okay.
I realize your son's a different matter, but
let me give you everything in a cup in terms of answer your question. First of all, believe nothing that you see. Sorry, believe nothing that you hear, half of what you see. Nothing is as it seems. The second thing is this, right? The most important thing in your life is your vitality. That's the number one most important thing in your life, your vitality. which is the sense of your health and well-being, and your relationships with yourself, with your loved ones around you, and with others, people, and the environment. So a relationship with Mother Gaia is also part of all that, and the relationship with others. So, so vitality is what you gotta work on. That's the most important thing for you. And vitality is the first cornerstone of the Trinity of Abundance. You want abundance? You have to have vitality first, more than anything else. So that's diet, exercise, the 5 elements, which is air, earth, water, sun, spirit. Learn to meditate, which is to still your mind, get out of the head. So the 5 S's are good, which is stillness, silence, solitude, sacred, space. Do the 2 together, and what happens? You've got 2 hands coming together, and then when you bring that into your heart and express your passions from there, you're going to make profound impact on the world and have abundance turn up to you like a waterfall.
Does your son meditate?
He prays because he's involved in the church.
Okay, that's a form of meditation. How is he on tapping into his own inner guidance? Has he
Not
begun
very-
that journey?
No,
And,
not very good.
Okay. Now, one of the things I loved in your videos that was very profound, in my opinion, is the level of change that we're going through. And I'll throw in the caveat, the illusion. Let's say a particular set of parents are having a brand new child now. They're late 20s, 28, having their first beautiful little baby girl. The birth is complete, and they look at this child, and it looks like every other generation's little baby. Beautiful baby, gonna melt dad's heart, the whole bit. All of that is there, but the vibration of these children is so much higher. And I call it the great illusion that on the surface, this child looks to be identical, but there's so much changed as far as the sensitivity, the amount of energy that these young children are now holding in this particular body, and the frequency of that vibration is significantly higher. Their DNA is changed in accordance with where the earth is going, not where the earth has been. And you talked a lot about that, and I want you to throw in your pieces about changing your expectations about these children. I thought that was a wonderful piece to convey.
First of all, the star children, these beautiful babies coming in today, are here not for the world today, not for the world yesterday, but the world tomorrow. The world tomorrow is going to place this planet and humanity's civilization has never been before. So we're not having a cycle of history repeating itself, because we're going into completely uncharted waters and territory. These children are here to teach the parents, humanity, about love and light at a level they've never experienced before. That's what they're here to do.
And we are conditioned as parents for the opposite.
Correct.
And it's a huge shift in the paradigm that parents have to realize. But if they embrace the fact that we're all on uncharted ground, at least not for a very long time since Atlantis or whatever, in the sense that less is more in the parenting side. Supporting these children or these souls as much as we can is huge. But trying to stay away from the I'm going to give you all of my belief structures, which are of the past.
Yes.
They are not aligned for
Yes,
those old paradigms.
That's correct. That's correct. Also, the biggest challenge that parents have with our star children today is technology. Okay, the tablet that's now the ubiquitous babysitter. So every parent that wants their child to be quiet shoves an iPad in front of them, and there's all the stuff to entertain the kids. So that for children, that's used as a babysitting tool is not good. Using that as an education tool, as fun entertainment within the appropriate boundaries is great. But I find that managing those appropriate boundaries is a huge, huge, huge challenge because of lifestyle and business and everything else, et cetera, et cetera. So one needs to counter and balance that. And the best way you counter and balance that is not to go restrict, but to adjust how much tablet time the child has, etc., but balance that with all the other activities like go outdoors, go to the beach, go have walks, go have fun, go watch stargazing, go play with animals. So balance with all that would be the thing to do. Now the challenge with balance all that is that parents got to have the time to do that. And these days, parents don't have the time to do that. And so then it requires a complete shift in priorities in lifestyle. Then you're going to look at why you're having such a large mortgage. You see, why do you need this house that you're in that you're working 60 hours a week just to keep?
Both parents are working 60 hours a week.
Yeah. So they're questions to look at in terms of priorities, lifestyle, families, everything else, etc., etc., etc. Because whenever anybody says, I can't, it's not I can't. It's I choose not to let go. That's what it's really about. See, so it's all, and the times are here to stretch and challenge people in those situations. And when they've got star children that they find challenging, that's exactly why those children are in their lives as their teacher. So,
where do you see us going? Now, there's a lot of images, and the timeline has been changing, and we are awakening up more and more to our own creatorhood. And I think as we do that, we find as a mass consciousness, we can do a huge amount and shift in a very quick period of time. Where do you, when one of the phrases you mentioned was, in 10 years, 40% of the jobs that currently exist will be gone. Easily. You still hold for that for the next 10 years, do you think? Or do you think we'll finally start seeing enough disclosure of technology that's been held back come in? Any and all of that. That's
yes.
interesting.
Now, all these things are interesting, Michael. First of all, disclosure of technology held back. Is that true? Yeah, there seems to be quite a lot of evidence of that, and I would be prepared to put cards on the table to say yes to that. Now, whether this technology will be allowed to be released, how it's going to release, how it's going to be deployed, the impact of the deployment of this technology, irrespective of the wonderful potential it has, all those are unanswered questions. So that's unanswered. And the second thing to look at is this. The shift in society as a result of the shift in technological innovation is massive, absolutely massive. And with these massive shifts come massive changes. With massive changes comes both two things, threats and opportunities. Threats to existing jobs, opportunities for a whole lot of new things that's possible. The future for people is to be creative, to be value-driven, to look at niche, to look at innovation. And the way to go in the future is for you to create a nano niche and own that niche.
Now, one of the things I would offer to parents along the same lines is, we know, and it's been proven and talked about for decades now, on how the public school system destroys creativity. Of the one thing, in my opinion, that we need in the education system is to teach the ability to be adaptable to change, to be flexible, to be creative, to think whole-brained. All of these are a much more organic style, and we have to get away from all of the structure that was industrialized revolution. The public school system here, and I imagine it's much the same in Australia, was designed to create factory workers at the turn of the century.
Yes.
Now, how would you advise a parent? Do you have any thoughts on how the parent could help their child to become flexible, accepting change, not fighting change, creative, tapping into their own guidance, just as you have around the lights? What thoughts would you have around that as far how a parent maybe could implement that on their own outside of the structures that try to hold them back?
Well, first of all, parents have to mold the behavior. Okay? A parent cannot teach.
That's huge.
A parent cannot teach a child to tap into inner guidance if they don't know how to do it themselves. Okay? A parent has to walk the talk. And my parents brought me up the best they knew how. And my dad worked on this. Do as I say, don't do as I do.
My generation, we had the same thing going on here. I remember the phrase many times.
So that was the way he brought me up. And when I became a dad to my son Jonathan, I made sure that I walked the talk. And he knew from a very young age, if Daddy made a promise, he never breaks his promise.
Good.
Right? He knew that from a very young age. So he always tried to make me promise things to him. that was a tactic he tried.
They're pretty smart about that. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Whenever he wanted something, he always tried to extract a promise
out
from
of it.
me. So I was very careful in what promises I dished out.
Good.
So parents have to first model that behavior. They got to be the change they want to see in their child. That's number one. Number two, there's going to be a number of compromises they're going to have to make. Okay, so schooling is a very, very big issue. Very few parents have the luxury of homeschooling themselves, let alone have the skills, the abilities, the talents, the resources to do the required homeschooling, because the traditional homeschooling doesn't cut it either in terms of what they used to, what people doing the whole homeschooling movement is not going to be adequate for star children. Now, I'm planning to build a school in the future for star children. Here's the vision of the school. No classrooms. The main building is a light activation temple. Then there's going to be buildings for arts, drama, music, creative expression, etc. There's going to be animals on the land, they're going to grow their own plants, and each building is going to be designed so that the walls drop into the floor that is completely open. That's the way I want it designed. And the whole curriculum is not going to be fixed. It's going to be free-flowing and organic. And it's going to move with the flow of where the children are at in terms of their consciousness and what they want to learn and everything else. And it'll be them practicing what they learn. So there'll be opportunities for them to practice, so it's not just theory and head work. And then I plan to teach them the mystery school arts and secrets. So one of the things I'm going to say is, now that you've learned a little bit about levitation, you can practice at home on cups and saucers and chairs, but make sure you don't practice on mommy and daddy because they won't cope.
There's practices in spoon bending that many of us have played with for decades now. That they've done that. No, that's awesome. I know in my own thought, teaching every generation across the board. If I was to teach a single thing in the school system, I would teach them how to tap into their own internal guidance, whatever that is. You could teach that, and how we are creator beings. How do I manifest? How do I create? what am I doing as a conscious being in my relationship to all that is? And that brings in the quantum understandings of being connected to all things. And these children are sensitive for a reason. When you're wakening up to be connected to the universe, I need to be more sensitive. My generation is not nearly as sensitive as these. I've spent years getting to where I am now, and these kids come in and they're already there.
Yeah.
Very multidimensional and the whole bit. And so much of society is what we can do with as a parent. They are so sensitive to the toxins around them, whether it's emotional toxins, a physical toxin, a chemical, air, water, the whole thing. The more that we can keep them clean, the better.
Correct.
And that to me also throws in almost every medical practice. It carries different levels of toxicity. Bruce Lipton in his studies showed that the cells of the body are 100 times more accepting of energetic medicine than they are of the chemical side from Big Pharma. And there's so much that a parent could do to keep the toxicity out, but they have to read, they have to be aware, they have to make a choice themselves, and they can't just tell the child, do this. No, they exactly have to model it, and it's a challenge for them. But as we begin to wrap up, tell me a little bit about your light, where it is, and we'll finish with that. When do you think it's going to be on the market and available to people? Because it's designed to help the awakening and the shifts in consciousness. Tell me about where you stand with your light and how they can get it or contact you. And
It's a work in progress, and
you're about to have the prototype.
well, I've got one which I'm going to receive soon, and it's then quite a long road to go and work with in terms of fine-tuning the software, etc., etc. And since I had the original vision for it, it's moved and changed from the point of view that it's not going to be a mass commercial device that anybody gets their hand on. It's only going to be offered to people who are awake and aware, and particularly for parents with star children that recognize that their children are star children and want to do something about it. They'd be the ones that I'd have as my target market. But as to exactly when, I can't tell you, but I would just hazard a guess and put something out there and say maybe sometime in 2020 it'll be available. Maybe second half 2020 it'll be available.
Well, we hope that it is, because I know it'll be wonderful to play with and see. And we wish you the best of luck with it and getting it completed and all of that. And I know it'll be an amazing device to play with. Any parting shots? Anything you'd like to tell the folks one last before we wrap up?
Yes. Don't beat yourself up by what you haven't done. What you do is look at the good things that you're doing and ask what else you can do tomorrow for your children. And the most important thing for star children is this: for them to learn how to work with the esoteric nature of light. That's a very, very big thing. And it's a topic for another video or discussion, etc.
Another day.
Yes.
Day. On behalf of the Wizard's Chest, thank you, Richard. Appreciate it. Wonderful seeing you as usual. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you, Michael.